time for NiziU. Getting into now the debut content, right? Because everything from the the Make You Happy album, that was pre-debut stuff that we all the songs that we heard as part of the series, actually leading up to the finale, right? The end of the conclusion of the first season of NiziU project. So this then is the official debut single, right? Step and a Step. And I know NiziU, let me see. NiziU has an upcoming release, because they're starting to drop some teaser trailers for it. I've seen a couple of those, and it's very, like, of course, at this point, because of having watched the NiziU project and everything, it I feel so invested in the group and so familiar with them, right? So when I see stuff being posted, it's very fun, like, to see any of the members. There was one video a while back, maybe about a month or so now, but it was Rima, and it was study time with Rima, and she's literally just sitting there studying for like 30 minutes, but there's no music, there's no, like, she doesn't even talk, but it's still such a fascinating thing, right? You just like, oh, look at her, she's studying, like, she's really locked into it, you know what I mean? She's not distracted or anything. I mean, she's like totally engaged in it for a solid like 29 minutes and some seconds or whatever. I mean, it was really interesting though. And I think I can't remember if it was premiered or if it was like a stream that happened, but everybody's just like, we're all just watching, like, well, like, we're all fascinated by just Rima just sitting there studying for 30 minutes. But that's what happens, right? You just get so attached to the groups. But this will be fun. What's interesting too was it's not lost on me, right? The timing when NiziU was formed. A lot of those early efforts were kind of dampened by, of course, the circumstances at the time, right? It would have been a different story if, it had happened, let's say, before, 2019, or even after, like, at this point, right? But it happened in 2020 when it did happen. So there was a great difficulty with getting started and promotional, endeavors and performances and stuff. That was quite stifled by the conditions, and it's unfortunate, but it's really cool to see them continue on. I think they've still only grown in popularity and renown. So let's go back to the beginning. I'm anxious for this because I've been wanting to listen to more. I want to get into like the debut release and everything, because NiziU is part of the regular rotation now, as being such a fan. So Step and a Step.
てしまったのは前に進んでたからいつも I'll be with you 鏡が輝くありのままの君がいる Let's go Step by step 私の歩幅で Step by step 私だけのペースでゆっくり行ってもいい休んでみてもいい歩いていく自分らしく Just believe yourself 頬に触れてく風感じてみて目を閉じて済ませば見えてくるよ
Don't get lost, so don't worry, 信じて victory 君ならyou'll be okay Just because 誰も見ない君だけの未来いつだって never too late Okay 一歩ずつでもいい進め Are you ready 楽だけの近道はなくていい自分だけの手で作るんだ明日をいつかは笑顔輝けるように守る
Step by step 私は私で Step by step 私だけの形で回り道でいい自分のペースでいい笑っていく好きになる Just believe yourself Everything will be fine
Be fine
Everything will be okay
Okay
Everything will be fine Be fine Everything will be okay Be okay
They're so pretty, right? They're so beautiful. It's like, it's crazy. Oh man. And I feel, it's just great to see them like at any time, and it does anytime. It's just like, if you're a fan, if you went through the whole NiziU project experience and everything, it's really just something incredible when you watch them. Whenever it doesn't matter what it could be a video, it could be just a random post or something, and it's just like you're gonna smile. Like you can't help it. But they're really just such incredibly beautiful girls. It's like, man, it's wild. Definitely a fun, upbeat song. And I had a feeling of deja vu a little bit when I was watching this, but it's because there are certain shots as part of the sequences in this music video that were used for another video. But see, this is going back to what I was talking about before, about some of the difficulty with like the initial the pre-debut stuff, like the stuff that first appeared. And I believe I don't know if it was fan made, but I don't think it was. I think it's actually an official release on like either the NiziU YouTube channel or JYP or some such, right? But it's it has, I think it's for Boom Boom Boom, because it has both clips from the stage performance that happened on the show, on the series, and then it has certain scenes from this video. Now that I'm seeing this, I'm like, oh, that's what that's from, but Mako running through the hallway, and Mihi sort of on the island, like there were certain shots in here, and I was like, wait a minute, have I know I haven't heard this song yet, but I remember seeing Nina on the steps, like a lot of this I was like, I've seen this somewhere before. And I was second guessing myself. I was like, did I already do a reaction to this? But no, that wasn't the case. They used some of those shots to kind of put together another video for, I believe it was Boom Boom Boom, if not one of the others. But yeah, so that I was at first I was like, wait, what's going on here? I was like, I kind of lost myself in time for a moment, but a very, very fun, colorful type of track. It's very cool, man. All the sounds are very fresh, right? There's like a very punchy percussion that's going on. We're definitely in 4. We got like the accents on the 2 and the 4 again, basically snare hits with some rather tight compression on it, but it gives it along with some reverb, right? It gives it this really crisp, fresh type of sound, right? Like it just feels very vibrant and very colorful, and that is NiziU. Like that's very on brand for them, you know. For it to be colorful and full of life and a lot of energy, like that's what they are, like as a group. And so totally like as the debut single, like this is pretty much exactly on point with what it should be, right? So we have a lot of these cool synth tones that are going on, right? Some really nice arpeggios, super clean, right? But it's like a little bit of reverb on sounds to give them some more sustain, a little bit more body, like they sound fuller, you know, there's more to them in duration. So that contributes to the richness of the sound. And of course the vocals are so incredibly sweet, right? Like the absolute range of the members, right? It's similar to let's say Twice in regards to actually how high some of these pitches are. A lot of these lines are quite difficult to sing if you're, you know, not near the register, and even then to be able to perform it with stability and to project, right, to have enough air behind it, it's very unique to the group for sure. But they always sound very, very sweet, right? The tone is so good. And then you have like Rima and Mayuka, whenever they come in with the rap lines, you know, it's really fun. Their rhythm is so good. It's so good, man. As you know, they syncopate, they change up the sort of rhythmic pattern that's going on over the course of their phrase, but it's always fun. It's always just a really and you kind of forget, like you'll be listening and you know the melodies are so sweet, right? It's like, oh man, okay, and then all of a sudden that, you know, Rima starts rapping and you go, oh yeah, that's right, like Rima could rap, you know, Mayuka could rap, like they actually can really quite impressively perform some of these rhythmic, you know, deliveries on this. Like, wow, okay. And so it's a great, again, and even that part, whenever those rap bars come around, it still has that fresh energy to it. You know, it's like there's a little bit of edge, there's a little bit of attitude, right, that's there, but it's very characteristic, and it's never like overdone, right? They don't go overboard with it. It's a very, very crisp delivery, right, of everything, and that's pretty much what gives it its edge, is how concise and precise everything is, right? Like it's so on point. And so that's what gives it its that feeling of attitude, right? But there's still a sweet, young, fresh, very like full of life type of energy to it. That's throughout all the every song that I've heard, right? Every NiziU song has that in common. It's that like they're very, very good at expressing that as part of the group concept. JYP. It's always interesting, right, to get that JYP part in there. It was cool. I don't mind it at all. You know, I think it's a cool thing. Like there was a point at which he kind of stopped doing it with twice, you know. It's actually really cool to see, like with the next group, you know, and you get this JYP, that little sound sample in there, right? It's just a thing. If you're like a JYP fan, if you're even a lot of K-pop fans in general, even if their main thing isn't JYP, they're gonna know what you're referencing if you mention that. But you have this whistle rather, that and you have a sort of layered arpeggio work that's going on here, right? There's a chord progression that gets established along with some very compressed percussion, and it's one of those effects where the way the intro is sort of shaped, right? There's like a very high amount of compression at the start that gradually lifts as the intro measures start to play, right? And then you get this emerging full and bright sound. But you have a whistle that's coming in, and there's a swing feel in this a lot. So what you have is like a downbeat, and then the next real pitch that you get, or the way that it's the phrasing is done, you'll hear it again on maybe the upbeat of 2, like the end of 2 or something, right? So the percussion is sticking to its 4 count, right? So you get a sense of like, okay, there's 2, there's 4, right? And 2, dun, dun. But the way that these arpeggios are being written is a lot of times you'll get, 1 and 2, and then it'll come back and 4 and, right? Like it doesn't always stick to the downbeat. So there's a little bit of syncopation, but you have the whistle sound that's playing an arpeggio, and you have a sort of the synth keys sound that's going on, right? The much bigger sort of like very round sounding synth tones that's also arpeggiating. And then there's that very fast, like, it's at least a 16 note subdivision, but you hear that sort of flurry, right? It would be a trill, except that it's actually ascending. It keeps going up and up, and that's a more like a sequencer arpeggiator type of effect, right? But it's a layering of arpeggios is what's going on to sort of build up the song at the intro.
大丈夫よそのままで安心して遅れてないから道に迷った時はね立ち止まってみたら Take your time oh yeah.
Oh, so we had some interesting, like the backing vocals. It's very, very deeply layered in there, but it's paired up with some of the synth stuff, and everything has like a good amount of reverb on it. So you get this sense of it's very deep space actually, and you saw everything there really tightened up, right, with the percussion, and we had mainly those synth lines that were going on, right, and then the vocal over it. The mix kind of condenses into that with some things going on in the background, right? Some synth samples and the backing vocals that are going on. But coming out of that intro, once all of that compression lifts, it's locked in very tightly to the, let's say, the biggest parts of the mix, right?
後ろ振り返ってみてほら君の足跡いつも I'm proud of you すでに特別な
So that was a good example, right? When we went into this sort of pre-chorus section, right? And you hear that boom, boom. So that's like 1 and 2. What is it? 1. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. It's not exactly on the beats. Let me see here.
proud of you すでに特別足跡いつも I'm proud of you すでに特別な君を誇るべきだから Let's go!
Yeah, so you count it. If you count, you can count the ands. It depends on like if you're gonna go off of the snare hits or not. But it's very it gets that swing feel going by skipping, right, a couple of downbeats in there, and so it kind of connects it over the different counts that are going on there. Man, Ayaka's very pretty. It's easy to get distracted, but we had a nice build up, right, in the pre-chorus section. A lot of it's like chorus vocals at the end, right? Like they all build up to this one big sound. So we have some big bass sounds in there, right? Like once we I gotta listen to the verse again, but definitely in the chorus, the bass is like massive. All of a sudden, it has like a huge space on the low end. It's still very clean though. Like as many sounds that you get going at once, it's never like muddied up or you know, sort of crowded. But we had a really massive bass there in the chorus, which is actually really great. The pre-chorus build-up, right, which kind of drops out a little bit, like the beat kind of drops out there, right? It's not really emphasized. It's mainly the vocal build-up, and then going into this chorus, the bass is an absolutely massive drop, right? Boom, like it's huge, man. And with the reverb that's on it too, it just gives it an intense fullness. And then, well, the percussion ramps up too. Like it's incredibly punchy here. Like there's the snare hits almost like splash, you know, like they're absolutely gigantic sounds. And then of course we have that arpeggiator that's coming back. That chromaticism, right, it gives it over all these like major quality chords. That's what gives it this bright, colorful feeling. Is adding, you know, sevenths in there, fifths, right? Like the chromaticism brings out all of this variety in tone color and the cool sound that's being used for the plugins, right? Because, you know, synths, because it can sound dark, right? Like you can think of certain synth sounds that actually have a very noir type of dark sound to them. It all depends on what the shape of that wavelength is like. But for these sounds, they're also like crisp and bright, right? So every time you hear this chromaticism, especially in the synth arpeggios that are throughout the rhythm section, that gives it this very characteristic bright colorfulness, right? And then their melody lines overwards, like the over the top, the vocal melody lines, those are so, man, they're some of the sweetest sounding vocals that you can find, like definitely. The whistle's back in. So those bum bum bum, there is a like the sort of second half of that hook phrase, there's strings that come in. I hear them mostly in the right, and they double with the sort of like backing vocal there, right? So everything will be okay, and then you hear that bum bum bum, be okay, and there it's imitating some of the vocal lines, right? But there's a very distinct string sound that's being used for that. And it's a bit of a rhythm, like, so it's a chord, it's an entire chord. It's not just one string sound, but you can hear like a root and a third in there, sort of outlining a chord, and they're following along with the rhythm of the vocals there. Well, she got very colorful with it there, man. When she descended, right, like that was that's an interesting melody line. And this is the other thing too, right? Because she's singing right now. Rima's singing right now, and it sounds so good, right? Like her voice is it's wonderful. And later on, when she starts to rap, that's what makes it feel like a surprise, because you hear her sing, and you're like, oh man, like, you know, just as angelic as all the other voices, but then when she comes in with the rap, you know, her voice, that speaking voice thing that kind of happens, right? And so it drops down a little bit naturally. It sounds a little bit lower, right? And then of course the rhythmic play that starts whenever she begins a rap section, and it's like, it'll like, oh yeah, that's right, she can rap too. Like the singing is so good, right? And you just kind of forget about it.
なんか寂しい時だってその手を伸ばせば Take my hand Oh yeah つまずいてしまったの前に進んでたから It's more being with you
Oh, trumpets! I hear trumpets now. I didn't notice that in the last time of pre-chorus section, but there's a trumpet sound in here too. So we've got strings, trumpets, the synth keys, the arpeggiator, the percussion mix too, kick and snare. If there's hat work in here, or like, it's very light. It's in here. It hasn't really like popped out yet. The splashiness around the other percussive hits, it's because the hat is such a narrow sound, right? So I'll have to try to pick it out. But then there's also the bass, of course, like a really massive 808 bass, especially in the chorus section. But it's a very full mix. This is what's fun. This is a commonality with, again, with Twice, right? The reason I really enjoy the songs is because they're so full. It's because they have all these different sounds in there, all these different instrument voicings, all like, that's what makes it fun. I love the, you know, just now the way it was like, oh wait, there's horn, like it just popped out to me, right? And maybe I missed it in the first pre-chorus. It's possible that I did, but that's the kind of thing that makes it fun, you know, is when you're like really engaged and you're listening to it, and all of a sudden you find something new that's in there, and that's what makes music from groups like NiziU and Twice so good, man. That's what it is. Some people aren't even conscious of it, right? Because a lot of times people don't try to listen to it this way, right? Like some people just kind of hear, you know, a wall of sound, and that's fun too. Like there are times when I'm just listening to it just to enjoy it, you know. So there are certain sounds that I'm definitely locked into, but I'm not necessarily trying to pick out all the different things. So there's a more casual type of listening for sure. But if you know, want to get into listening to it actively, or even sometimes you might just be relaxing, lying down, doing nothing else, right? Like you're not doing anything, but you have your earbuds in or something like that, and you're just listening to the music, and you'll catch something like it will stand out, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was cool, right? But there's just something about these very rich, substantial and full types of song mixes that makes them so enjoyable, right? A ladder, because, you know, it's steps on a ladder, you know. When I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, steps, right? Step and a step, yeah, okay. It's clever. It's a good visual too. Oh, we have a piano sound. Sounds like an electric piano sound, right? And it's chunking out the chord on the one. Bum, 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 and then you have that synth that's arpeggiating the chord, bum, 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 right? And then you have the whistle too that's going on at the same time. All three of those are the same chord, you know. The piano is sort of playing the low end that's coming in on the downbeat of one, right? It's moving the progression along. The arpeggiation that's going on with the synth is kind of the it's specifically highlighting each one of the pitches that are in the chord, and then the whistle is more something like a theme, a motive line that's going on over the top. And it's actually a really fun callback at this point in the song from the intro, right? Like the first time you hear that whistle is in the intro, and then you hear it again every time that we move into like the sort of chorus section and all that. But it's a really nice touch. But the play that's going on between piano, synth, whistle, right, is all basically the chord progression. It's all outlining the chord progression. Then we got hat work. Oh, that was really cool. Check it out. Okay, so the going through this part of the song right here, which is this is like bridge like already, right? You're gonna hear the percussion ramp up. Like, let me see. All of a sudden you get that hi-hat in there, that shuffle rhythm, really super tight, like snare hits also, and then it's gonna go into the rap section. That's rhythmic signposting, right? That percussive shuffle rhythm that comes in is priming you for moving into the rap section and the vocals.
Don't get lost, so don't worry, hinji to victory. Kimi nara you'll be okay. Just because 誰も見ない君だけの未来。いつだって never too late. Okay. 一歩ずつでもいい進め。Are you ready? 楽だけの近道はなくていい。自分だけの手で作るんだ明日を。いつかは笑顔輝けるように守る。
You know, it's really great too, the way the mix is handled right there, because you basically, just get the progression. You have the percussion that's going on, but it sticks to really those that sort of synth keys sound that's just moving the chord progression around. A lot of the rhythm part of the mix kind of moves out of the way, and that gives enough space for Rima and Mayuka to do their rap bars, right? Like they have all the space in the mix. They have everything underneath that's supporting it, the bass and the drum parts, and then just that synth sort of chunking out the chords, right? All the rest of the space is like all cleared out, and they get to move up and down and rhythmically they get all the space. There's nothing that's like crowding it there. It's a super clean space for them to have their parts over. And I thought that's a very considerate structure to the song, and I'd like to give it credit anyways for giving them, like really giving them all the space there. I mean, that was actually really cool. The priming of the percussive build-up right before moving into that section, and then it's really cool, man. It's almost like chivalrous in a way. It's kind of like, okay, everybody just make a hole, like just get out of the way, right? Because they have something they're going to do right now. It's something actually really sweet about that. whistle. Oh no, it doesn't come back. There it is. There it is. That synth at the end there, that after the whistle, that sort of main synth line that came in, that's so. It's almost a 80s throwback, that sound, right? Especially the sort of like rich echo on it between the reverb and like actually a little bit of delay also, because you can hear that pulsing back again. But it's super nostalgic. Like that's, it reminds me of like that very rich, buzzy 80s synth, that you'd hear in almost anything from the 80s, right? If it uses synth, it has that type of sound to it. And the reverb and the delay just kind of give it this very nostalgic feel. But this is like a perfect debut single for NiziU. I can't, like, everything about it is exactly right. Everything about it. It's a wonderful upbeat tempo. It's a super fun mix. It's so full. It's so bright. What a great selection of the instrument sounds, the strings, the horns, your percussion, your synth parts in the rhythm. It's and then overall just this entire song concept of everything will be all right. It's very super sweet. Like it's perfect. This is a perfect debut single for a group like NiziU. It really is just fantastic. All of their lines are so good. They sound so incredible on all their parts, man. The harmonies, the big build-ups to like huge chorus harmonies, right? And it's massive, like, because they're another 9-member group, right? So when you get all of them, and this is a little unique to their group. Twice did it early on. Like if you listen to a lot of that early end of the discography of Twice, you'll hear a lot of those big chorusy sounds, right? Like in Do It Again and songs like that. As they progress through, though, you don't get so much like all 9 voices at once. You'll get, it has a distribution to where you'll have like maybe 3 or 4 voices at a time over on the left side, and then they'll be kind of sequenced with the other 3 voices or 4 voices over on the right side, right? But they kind of it kind of makes sense as everybody gets stronger performance wise. You want to give a little bit more space, right? But the way that it's done with this song here for NiziU, like what they do these huge chorus, almost like cheers, right? Like it sounds like cheers or chants or something, because it's just so many voices, very high pitches too. Like it's incredibly difficult to sing these parts, but stacking them all together like that just makes it a huge sound. Like I said, the song structure itself too, like having that space for the rap section. In other words, this is what I mean by how considerate the song structure and the mix actually is, right? And this is on the composition and on the production end as well. But it's a perfect debut single for the group because all of that intention, like from the beginning of it. It's like this is an example of how JYP and the other writers and producers who are working on the song are really dedicating their efforts to the group. Like it's very much for them, you know. We're making this for you. Like we want you to have one of the best releases that you can possible for a debut single, and it's a really incredible thing. Like it's a very, very thoughtful thing to do. Of course, with this group, right? With these members, right? It's very intuitive. They're just they're very just beautiful in every way, not just aesthetically, not just, you know, their outward appearance, but even on the inside, and even like their minds, right? Like they're just beautiful, man, through and through, like completely. So it's natural to have that type of consideration if you get an opportunity to work to you know, especially on the debut single, you know what I mean? But it's perfect. It's not, there's you know, the every quality of the song matches the group so well. It's so spot on. Everything about it. The colorful, you know, sound, right? It's incredibly rich. It's upbeat tempo, right? It's even the layering of the chord progression across all those sounds. It's all of it is very much a service to the girls, you know, what they do vocally. Now it's incredible. It's it's definitely a feel good song, you know. It really is. Like it's written very much to be a feel good sort of positive type of song, but it's also like you know, if you're, like I said, if you're one of the fans, like this is fun even if you're just sort of a general fan of, you know, K-pop and, you know, okay, so you know JYP, you know NiziU, okay, yeah, you listen to it, you can enjoy the song for sure, like you know what I mean, like it's fun, there's nothing not to enjoy here, right? But if you happen to be a fan who, you know, went through the whole NiziU project experience and all of this, because it definitely resonated like in here, you know what I mean? As I was listening to this, I was like, oh, I might, you know, I'm trying not to get too emotional, but it's there. It's definitely there, and so all of that, you know, just to reinforce that idea of like how thoughtful the song actually is, but as expected, you know, they do a wonderful job with it, performance wise. It's incredible. They're it makes sense that, you know, that NiziU is a successor to a group like Twice, you know, because man, that's what an act to follow, right? If you're Twice, you know, comes on the scene, and they're just like otherworldly, right? They're and they still are. They're still just out of this world, man. Even as they continue to release, you know, new material and everything. Oh my man, they're just out of this world. So to follow in that in the footsteps, right? Like to follow that group, like man, in other words, it takes a really incredible group of members, right, to be able to give you that same kind of feeling, you know. But that's NiziU. Like that's what they do. They manage to actually pull that off. You know, I put them right up there along with Twice. You know, that like they're an incredible group, man. Because my experience is very similar, you know, from how I was introduced to the group, and even like now starting to get into their music and everything. You know, there's not been a song yet that I haven't enjoyed. You know, everything is so good, and like there's not a miss. You know what I mean? And it's just an amazing thing when this happens, and it's like, oh my goodness, they did it again. Like, you know, like it's such it's so mind blowing. Just the idea that like both of these groups are actually real and they actually exist. That's a mind blowing thing, man. But Step in a Step is a perfect debut single for NiziU. It's absolutely impeccable. Everything about it is wonderful, and it's everything that it could possibly be. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's such a feel good song, man. I'm gonna have to knock out some more because I want to get that next album. You know what I mean? Like I have the Make You Happy album. I have that EP, and it's wonderful, but like it's such a small selection of songs, right? It's a very short track list on it because it's only an EP, right? So I want to get to the next one, right, so that I can expand it and have more songs to actually listen to, because I can still play the pre-debut album like over and over again. That's no problem, right? But I want to hear them. Like I get to that point and I'm like, I just want to hear more. That's it. I just want to hear more, because NiziU is an incredible group. But what a absolutely beautiful song, man. It's fantastic. Everything about it is great.